Welcome back, everyone, to Gaming on the Brain podcast, episode number 9. I'm Mark.
This is Glenn.
This is Glenn. And today we're taking a little bit of a not a break, but we're deviating slightly from our standard template. And we're not going to be doing a video game today, although it is connected to a video game.
Great series. I love the series.
If you're capable of reading, then you'll have seen in the actual thing that you just clicked on to watch this, we're going to be doing a Twisted Metal TV series, which released quite recently, 2023.
Yeah, from Peacock.
Yeah, from Peacock, that's right. Something that both me and Glenn thoroughly enjoyed. But I will warn you now, this episode is going to be absolutely chock full of spoilers, yes. Because we don't hold anything back, we'll talk about whatever we like. So if you haven't seen the TV series yet, I would advise you to probably stop what you're doing and watch it first and then come back and listen to this.
Well, we did discuss, didn't we, whether we should really go into the series of how we want it to turn out and how it should turn out. But that was the case. Well, now we need to go into the meat of it. Unfortunately, we'll break it open and you'll hear about endings and potential characters and whatnot, and how we'd like it to move forward and that. So if
we're held back, there wouldn't have been a podcast. So basically, it wouldn't have been worth doing.
Please do be very careful if you haven't watched it yet and you don't want anything spoiled, because it will be spoiling for you.
Before we get into the main segment, just a couple of things. I'm excited about, actually. Maybe not you so much, but EA Sports.
Because I am updated on consoles.
I know. EA Sports UFC 5 is releasing on the 27th of October, and I'm giddy about it because I've extremely enjoyed the previous UFC games. Absolutely loved them. I'm actually on a mission right now to find the first 4 UFC games for PlayStation. I finished them all on the Xbox, as in all the way through Championship until retirement. But now I want to play them again on the PlayStation so I can get the trophies for them, because I'm a bit of a whore like that. But so super looking forward to that. Forza Motorsport coming out October the 10th. Really looking forward to that as well. I do admit I'm a massive fan of the previous games, but I was a little bit put off on the new one, having heard some of the stuff about it. But it's my interest has been rekindled in the last few weeks with the release of the videos that have been brought out of showing like the initial races and the Builders Cup and stuff like that, and how all that works. So yeah, very much looking forward to that as well. And also just something to talk about. I've been playing this week on my Steam Deck a game called Marlowe Briggs and the Mask of Death, which I admit I haven't looked this up, but I think it was an Xbox 360 PS3 game and PC release, obviously. And what it is, it's the best way to describe it, Glenn, is like a God of War set in modern times with the God of War weapons, but you fight helicopters and stuff as well. That sounds confusing, right? And throw in the Splatterhouse mask as well, and it's comedy. Yeah. So basically, it's God of War, right? You've got the mask telling you what to do and stuff, because that resurrects you.
Yeah,
right? And then you've got 4 different weapons which you can switch through all the time, which is includes long whip type blade things,
to catch helicopter blades.
Yeah, like a big sword thing and stuff like that. And it's got bits in it where it changes into a top down shooter going towards the end of the game, where you're shooting helicopters out of the sky and stuff.
This I must see.
You need to look into it. I'm telling you this because I think you should all have a look at it. It's a cheap game you can get for a few quid on Steam. I'm actually enjoying it. It is a pretty good God of War clone, if I'm honest. It's a good game so far. I'm very near to completing it. It's probably 5 or 6 hours by the time you get through it. But it's a fun little game, and for a few quid you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
So I recommend checking it out. And if you do and you like it, drop us a comment, let us know what you think of it, and hopefully I'm not the only odd person who likes this game. But it was recommended to me on a list of good action games that you should play through on PC. So yeah, check that one out anyway. But have you got anything, Glenn?
No, I'm good, mate. I am good.
So I think what we'll do now
to say it during the podcast.
Yeah, we'll unleash the infamous Gaming on the Brain theme tune, and then we'll get straight into the main segment. So we'll catch you guys in about 30 seconds time. Bye for now.
Take care.
You've got gaming on the brain.
So Glenn, you were quite late getting into watching this one. I think me and Danielle watched it a long time before you.
Yes, that's right. Like, yeah.
Do you think it was worth the wait, or?
Oh, absolutely. As a long time Twisted Metal fan, this was phenomenal. I mean, it could have went one of two ways, and I was quite sceptical when it was getting previewed and when it was getting shown early. I thought it was going to be a heap of shite, to be honest. And I thought it probably wouldn't be faithful to any of the games. I mean, I am a lifelong fan. Saves a super fan, if you want to use that term.
Twisted Metal super fan.
I've got a massive collection of stuff for this series. So I have followed it very closely in the past. Every single game, even the bad ones. Anyone who's watching this who's a fan will know which ones those are. Don't need to mention the name of the developer. I will anyway. It's 989 Studios.
989 Studios.
But I mean, what I liked, the show captured the feel of some of the more comical Twisted Metal games. Even the darker installments like TMB, Twisted Metal Black, had a very dark sort of low sort of simmering humour. Wherein, like, obviously the more on the nose versions, the more on the nose installments like TM2 or TM Head On and that, the humour captured was pretty well captured in the show. I thought, like, reminds a little bit of Ash versus the Evil Dead. I thought,
it did. Vibe was great. Remember when I was telling you about it initially?
Conversation.
I did get that vibe. Yeah, it felt like it had that B movie quality.
Yeah, definitely. There was deliberate.
But it was a nice charm to have that B movie quality.
I thought as well that I mean, I would have expected a Twisted Metal show to have pretty much went straight into like a car combat contest, like probably similar to something like Death Race, the original Death Race from 2008. When I say original, obviously not the original Death Race, but the first Death Race film with Jason Statham. And I liked that film. I thought it was a great film. And I thought Twisted Metal series would have probably fit that sort of scope and structure. And it didn't.
Yeah.
It's actually what I've ended up loving more is that it doesn't even touch on the contest at all. Very, very slightly late in the series, but even then it's not truly the actual contest that you would know in the games, but it gives you a vibe for what's possibly to come, hopefully.
It's like a build-up, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It happens late enough. Yeah,
second too.
It's a nice little nod and Easter egg to the older games, the games. But I mean, the lead up to that is introducing the characters. I mean, it's less about the cars and more about the characters, which I always remember David Jaffe, one of the lead designers of the early Twisted Metal games, would always say, well, especially for Twisted Metal 2012, which is the up until now final installment, he would say it's all about the cars and not the characters, as in the cars are the characters, so the drivers are not as important. I love that this show has turned that on its head pretty much, and now it's not. I mean, the cars are still integral to the plot to some degree, and obviously we'll maybe find out more about that in the future. But at this moment in time, it's definitely more about the drivers themselves, and they're not just one-sided, single sort of minded personalities. They've all got depth. I mean, Sweet Tooth in there. Sweet Tooth has a whole new backstory, which is really well done. It doesn't mirror any of the previous stories used in the various games in the series, because he's got several different stories, as you know.
Yeah.
It's not always the same from installment to installment. And obviously with the change of developer, and when the original developer came back, which was the originally single track, and then became Incognito Studio and then Eat Sleep Play, they had different members within those teams. And even then, within those teams where you still had the same core few members like Jaffe and Scott Campbell, there still was differences in the stories of returning characters, and I thought it was so cool. Because, I mean, you had to keep it fresh. I mean, obviously in the plot of most Twisted Metal games, I mean, a driver will enter the tournament in their vehicle, and then they might get killed off in their wish. Yeah. Anyone who knows the games knows exactly what we're talking about, so don't you need to break this down too much.
Most of these wishes backfire.
Yeah, many do, and many of them backfire in a way that driver isn't coming back, like in a comical way, of course. In fact, Calypso, who obviously is the tournament master, he often the drivers who get to survive or actually get the wish that they want are the most evil ones, or in some cases, some of those drivers actually get the comeuppance on Calypso himself, which I thought was always cool.
Yeah.
And what I've liked about the show so far is that, like I say, they've introduced some new characters, but generally speaking, they've done what Twisted Metal Black did to the early games in the series, and that you've got very familiar names of very, very familiar vehicles, but the people in those vehicles are either very different characters altogether with a different name and personality, or in some cases the name is familiar but the driver isn't, if that makes sense. And again, Twisted Metal Black did that, with a good example being Outlaw. Outlaw was, in the original Twisted Metal 1 and 2, Outlaw was a cop, like a good cop in a world gone twisted, and that's what was described in the manual in the story. And he had a pretty much simple police cruiser, as you would expect, with weapons and a taser, special weapon. But as the series moved on, definitely into Black, this character became a SWAT team member, and he had a darker story behind him where he'd actually not so much as deliberately committed a crime, but he had basically made a big mistake trying to complete his mission, and he ended up actually killing somebody, or killing a child, and that element played into part of the new story for
the series, yeah.
For what, mind you, I do need to add is a vehicle that is never ever referred to as Outlaw, but you do have a character called Agent Stone who looks similar to the police officer characters of the older Twisted Metal games, but is named closer to the SWAT team member of Twisted Metal Black, and part of his story is clearly based on that. On some elements of Agent Stone from TMB's
He's
story,
played by
it's Thomas Hayden Church,
Hayden
isn't it?
Church
He's
as well,
great.
yeah.
You might remember
That's
Sandman, yeah. Also, mind you, I have to interject here. Like, I remember him as the bad guy in George of the Jungle, the one who fell in the shit.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was class. That was the first film I seen him in. But obviously, he's more well known as. Sorry, it was I. He's more well known, obviously, as I say, as Sandman and Spider-Man 3. But he also popped up and had big much of a cameo on Spider-Man No Way Home.
He was a big lump in Spider-Man, wasn't he?
He still isn't TM.
He's big.
He's
lad.
big. He's like thick set. He's a big lad. It's like he's got a presence. And he is technically antagonist. I mean, you could consider him your final boss, which I thought was a cool twist because the copper characters, the police characters, and all the other Twisted Metal games have never been a bad guy. I mean, they've always had some. They've been flawed characters like Agent Stone, obviously there, and even like Carl. What was Carl's second name?
Was that Spectre or something?
No. Carl and Jamie Roberts. Carl Roberts, yeah, sorry. Nearly couldn't forget that. Sergeant Carl Roberts from TM1 and Captain Jamie Roberts, who was Carl's sister, obviously, from TM2. They ended up meeting up in the ending of TM2, and that fed into their story into Twisted Metal 3, which I mean is generally considered non-canon by fans. But it's so long ago now that I don't even... At the end of the day, the games exist, and if you like them, you like them. If you don't, so be it. But and I do like this, whether the fans do or not, but I do like this element, is the fact that the people who made the Twisted Metal show, they've looked at every TM game, they haven't ignored any, and I think that's fair, because there is fans out there of 3 and 4. Some people don't like TM Head On, some people don't like Black.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Head On.
Or Small Brawl, and so to have, obviously to have people who literally have played all the games and do have an interest in the full series, I thought was excellent. A lot of them were just little nods, but little tiny Easter eggs, but it was amazing to spot them. I mean, one Easter egg I spotted, which you didn't at the time, did you? But I pointed out to you, was they even had a Small Brawl Easter egg when it had Hammerhead, I think it was Hammerhead and Warthog fighting each other, and it's in the distance as well, so you can't see this really clearly, but if you look at the colour schemes on the two cars, they're clearly based on Warthog and Hammerhead from Small Brawl, which that game has its own unique colour schemes.
Was that right at the start or something, you said?
No, it was a little bit further in. It's when before the nuclear holocaust. It's shown. Right. It's shown in the past. It's like a episode where it shows you the history of how it all started in 2002.
Yeah.
Which again is another little change of plot, because Twisted Metal. Well, if you go back to Twisted Metal 1, bear in mind, after Twisted Metal 1, 2 and 3, the story pretty much changes completely anyway too. Some games have their own sort of self-contained plot, like 4 and like Black. To some degree, Black anyway. Black, obviously, once you've played through that fully and you know the story, it's much more connected to the early games than you think if you have or haven't already played. But generally speaking, from an initial look, it's just its own story. But 4 is a good example. TM4, another game that was hated by many, but I have many great hours with that. We both have, I think.
Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't much of a fan of 3 and 4. But I have many fond memories of especially 2 and somewhat 1 as well.
That's probably after playing 2. I mean, 2 is the more speed. 3 and 4 had some level design issues as well. 4's levels were too big and sprawling, and that was clearly that was clearly a response to a complaint made about the levels of 3. Where, I mean, TM3, anyone who's played the first 3 levels, that's nearly 50% of the game, are tiny little arenas. They're not much bigger than the arena level in Twisted Metal 2, you know. So, yeah, some of the levels in that game weren't very good, and I think they went out of the way to do the opposite with 4, and by doing that, you end up sort of like with lots of time, where lots of open space where you're not actually doing any fighting. But back to the story of 4, it is its own story, and many of the characters in that game. In fact, in 4, there's 13 characters. This does link into the series as well. 13 characters, and 2 of those characters are recurring names, but they're complete different redesigns from game characters early in the series. You know? And it's nice to see some of those characters were also mentioned in the series. Like, so what are you going to say, Mark?
I was going to say, Glenn, Twisted Metal, super fan, clearly. I was always a fan of Twisted Metal. I remember it was probably I think it was the first game you ordered for the PlayStation, wasn't it? I remember.
I've got 3, didn't we? Because we discussed it in the Ridge Racer episode.
Yeah, Ridge Racer plays.
Ridge Racer Destruction Derby 1 and TM.
Twisted Metal, yeah. And Twisted Metal.
I've got no regrets.
It was good, but it wasn't. It didn't set things.
Oh, it's an ugly game. It's ugly. I mean,
very.
very. I mean, yeah. It's. I remember the Scott Campbell saying that Ken Kutaragi, he actually wanted the game canned when he seen it, because he thought, he even says, like, where's the real graphics?
Highlight for
yeah, it's like this, the graphic, and the graphics aren't great. I mean, yeah, it's still an early 3D game, but if you compare it against, say, Destruction Derby, and I think Destruction Derby has great graphics for its time.
It looks excellent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, much cleaner.
Very small track store.
Yeah,
cars,
just sticking with the cars.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, DD gets away with, because there is only one car model as well, though, mine. But that car model, which looks like a Ford Escort, mine, it's got to be.
It is. Ford
it looks
Escort,
cool as hell, you know. And I mean, you've got bear in mind, you've got proper deformation of the cars, and in that game where TM only has damaged states, so the car will go from pristine to battered to fuck after after you get the energy down to 50%. So not a graphically great looking game, and. Even the playability isn't amazing in the first game, to be fair, and it's a good game, but I think maybe it got a bit of a fluke with it being an early game, because it could have easily fell by the wayside.
Yeah.
I remember being very, very heavily disorientated when I first played it, which I didn't get when I played 2. It said 2 blue, 1 at the water in every way. I mean, it's a bit of a Street Race 1 and 2 sort of analogy.
It is, yeah.
You know, 1...
2 is far
yeah, which it should be. I always believe a sequel should. You know, a proper sequel should.
So yeah, so we had. I mean, especially like Deathmatch and 2, fond memories. That I loved the story mode. It was fantastic.
Go-up and all that.
Yeah, really good. But I'll be honest. It wasn't. I mean, for like Last of Us, for example. I mean, Sony recently released the Last of Us TV series.
Yeah, it looks very good.
I'm a big fan of the Last of Us games, especially the first one, more so than the second one. But I really enjoyed. Sorry, 2 seconds. So yeah, so I was always a big fan of the second game and everything. Like I say, the story mode, the whole lot, but. It wasn't like Last of Us, where Last of Us 1 especially really blew us away. It was a hell of a story and everything. You know, I remember crying my eyes out at the start when his little girl dies. Hope nobody.
It's a different type of game, you know. Such a different type of game, I suppose.
But because of that, when the Last of Us TV series was released, I kind of had high hopes for it and everything. And you know, Sony really set a bar there. I think with the quality of that series, they did an excellent job. And you know, it followed the game very closely, threw in quite a few extra things as well that were like surprising but really good as well.
Yeah.
But then when I heard about the Twisted Metal TV series, which evidently was before Last of Us was released, I thought that's never going to work. How can they make that game into a legible story that's going to last a season or 2 or whatever and keep people involved? And I went into watching it with very low expectations, and I'll be honest, it was like I'm blown away on how good this is. And I mean, you know, Danielle's usually not really into this kind of thing, but Danielle was like, can't watch the next one. It was like fantastic.
Well, it kept the action going all the way. I mean, Sweet Tooth as a character is so interesting. I mean, his backstory, as I say now as well, is completely different from the games, any of the games, in fact, with only very light elements here and there picked from mainly Twisted Metal Black. Like the Asylum elements and that, you know, but his actual backstory is how he got into Asylum is great, you know. And I mean, they've moved away from the split personality. Well, sorry, the 2 separate characters where Needles and Marcus being the driver of Roadkill at certain points in the series, you know. Needles obviously being Sweet Tooth, but they're starting with Head On. They finally made it clear that Sweet Tooth and Needles were actually one and the same So technically, Roadkill and Sweet Tooth should never be fighting each other because in the story of Head On, because they're actually the same character. But I mean, it obviously doesn't work within a game. But they've obviously within the new series, there's no actual link that we know of at the minute, and I personally don't think there ever will be between John Doe and Needles. But we know, going by Twist Metal Black, if the series follows TMB in any way, that John Doe isn't Marcus. You know, we know John Doe absolutely is not Marcus, and not only that, but Needles is clearly referred to as Marcus at one point in the story. So we know Marcus Kane is Sweet Tooth. You know, he's called Needles because of what he gets up to at one point with the dog. So
I think we'll I think we'll get back onto Sweet Tooth's character shortly when I ask a few questions and whatnot. But I've got one immediately. Obviously, the main story starts out following John Doe as like the main protagonist.
Yeah, the milkman, which is a new element.
Yeah, the milkman. So basically, he's a delivery guy. He fetches whatever you need, that kind of thing. You know, fair enough. All right, but then the story revolves around him, which he's played by Anthony Mackie. He actually pulls a very good good role as well. Because I thought he was a bit rubbish in Marvel.
Well, I never seen him in it. I never really bothered with him that. But in this though, said he's got great character, good humour, and that. He's just cool. He
plays a really good part.
Wrestling, it's like, you know, I'd want to play as this character if they made a game of this show, which could actually be a thing.
I think he just had a poor script in the Marvel films, so he never really got up to much. He was the guy with the wings.
I know what you mean. You never really thought. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah,
but he seems to be having fun in this as well. He
does.
He looks like he's actually enjoying.
It's like the part's being made for him.
The cast and that.
He gets to you know, bust his comedy chops, and he does a very good job on it as well. But who's the female protagonist that he's with?
Quiet.
So was she in
the series?
Was she in Twisted Metal at all?
Not in the slightest, and I can't really find a character. Thing is, right, she's tough and she's like sexy and all this stuff. Yeah. So she could be one of many different characters in the series, or based similarly on. I mean, she could be a bit like Angela Thornton, who drives Pit Viper in the first one, but we know Pit Viper's going to be in this. It didn't say the name of the girl who was saying the driver, but she wasn't called Angela, she was just referred to as Pit Viper, but we could assume it might be this character. This character, Angela Thornton, was only in Twist Metal 1 as well. Pit Viper never popped up again. She could be... There's little elements of Bloody Mary in there, but then we know that Bloody Mary actually pops up, and she's quite similar to our Twist Metal Black version, which I thought was cool. Now, obviously, in the story of TMB, she drives Spectre. We don't know what she'll drive in this, but she is in... We know, going by the end of the show, that she returns. She's back in it. She's going to be in it in some element, so it'd be cool if Spectre comes up in there. But yeah, they've created, as Mark, as you're saying, though, they've created some new characters, but those characters that don't have any basis in the game, they're great. I mean, technically, John Doe is a character from TMB, because John Doe drives Roadkill in TMB, and obviously we know, going by the series, he actually ends up driving Roadkill in this series, you know. So he's not the same. He's definitely not the same John Doe as TMB, because if you remember that story, you find at the end of his story, he's a CIA agent and FBI agent.
I don't remember.
And he's like, he was undercover and he got hurt. You know, he basically had amnesia. So I don't see that element happening here. Well, we found out his backstory anyway, didn't we? At the end of the series, we found out about his family and that. So he's called John Doe and he does drive Roadkill, but it's a different John Doe. And like I says, that is not a problem to me personally, because that's absolutely in keeping in the spirit of the series. It is. I mean, I actually like it when you'll see a familiar name. Like Agent, again, going back to Agent Stone. I mean, Agent Stone actually was the driver of Crimson Fury in the first TM. And he's a secret agent based on James Bond. So a very different character to what you see on the screen in the series and what you see with TMB and that version's Agent Stone. You know, so you will see familiar names in the series. The other thing that happens a lot as well in the whole of the Twist Metal game series is you'll get familiar cars, like Shadow is a good example. Shadow started out in TM2 and was a great car to drive.
I remember
the hearse, the purple hearse. That car is driven by Mortimer. Now Mortimer he's basically a supernatural keeper of souls. He's not the Grim Reaper, because the Grim Reaper's present as well. He's not the Grim Reaper, but he could be probably from the same realm, if you want to call it that. He's not a living man. He's not a human in the normal sense. You know, he's got a familiar like a crow with him and that. You know, so there's those strange elements. And in Twist Metal Black, when Shadow pops up again, it's now driven by a girl called Raven, and obviously there may be a little nod there back to Mortimer's Crow or Raven, where we had, but I'm saying a very different character with a very different and very tragic backstory that's clearly based on the Crow. I've always felt it was based on the Crow, yeah. But again,
Makes
you know, a familiar name in the vehicle itself, but a very different driving. Spectre's another good example as well there, you know. So obviously, if we've mentioned or previously is Outlaw, you know.
The I found, I mean, Sweet Tooth for me. Well, it feels like the main protagonist there's John Doe, then there's Quiet, and then there's Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, you've got like Agent Stone, who's technically like your bad guy throughout the first season.
And he's got his own story, hasn't he? So.
Yeah, and I mean, all the characters just seem to work so well, and it's like, I mean, Sweet Tooth especially. I mean, I don't know who you'd give the award to, but Samoa Joe obviously plays the physical part perfectly.
The physical side, yeah.
Who plays the voice again? It's
I can't remember the name of him now.
I need to Google it. I need to have a look at this. 2 seconds.
Well, while you're googling, I like the fact as well that you had secondary characters, like still quite important, but not as important as the main cast. You had like Mike and Stu in there, and you had Amanda Watts popping up. You know, I mean, Mike and Stu don't drive the Hammerhead, and I don't think they'll get to going by the end of the story either. But it was nice to see the names pop up there. Same with Granny Dread. Granny Dread drove Hammerhead as well in Twisted Metal 3. And she's a character in this story as well. And I thought, you know, little nods, just little names and nods to characters, even if the characters aren't very similar. Flower Power, there's another one. Another nod to a Twisted Metal 3 character, you know.
Will Arnett.
Aye.
Of course, yeah. But I think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Samoa Joe, ECW wrestling, isn't it? I don't think you see him often on the mic. Any wrestling fans, please don't hold us to account. I tend to watch more WWE than anything. But I know physically he's very good and everything. But I don't know if they had to pick Will Arnett because they wanted like a certain...
I think it's a mask, mate. Yeah, it's as simple as that. I think it's as simple as having the mask on. It's the Darth Vader syndrome. You've got to think about it. Do you remember David Prowse? Obviously they replaced his voice. He actually had his voice in that show.
Yeah.
And they replaced it with James Earl Jones, which is obviously timeless, you know.
They should have done that with Tom Hardy and Bane.
I think they should have actually. Yeah. But he went for certain... There's a video I'll tell you about later. Like, he actually went for a certain style, and after watching the video, he hit what he tried to do, which is it wasn't accepted by everybody. But seeing what he was trying to do, he was trying to be like a famous pikey sort of fist fighter, you know, the voice, and he copied the voice as best he could. That was just the direction of going in, you know. But I think with Sweet Tooth, I wonder if it was just something as simple as them being muffled with the mask on.
But the thing is, the character comes across. He's extremely funny.
It's a physical comedy. It's
so
a lot of,
funny, but just as menacing as he is funny.
He flips from one to the other, and I thought that was cool because that's not something he never did in Twist Metal games. Like, he's clearly based between the TMB version and obviously the TM 2012 version. I mean, the mask is very similar. He's clearly not based on TM 1 but they include an element from Twisted Metal 1, which I absolutely love, and I can't believe they even thought to do this. He's got Harold the Lunch Sack. And that is class because that is an element of the whole series that was only used in the first game. Now, there's some unreleased videos of Twisted Metal 1. Now, they are on YouTube, and they're quite easy to see, and they're worth checking out if you haven't. Very poor quality, but very funny, very cheesy. And Harold plays a much bigger part in Sweet Tooth's ending, which is excellent. Actually, his ending's very good, very well done, very funny. But Harold's in there, you know, and I thought, you know, this was cool. Like
Danielle, for anyone listening, good. Danielle's the wife, by the way. If she was saying, "What's up with a lunch sack?" I was like, "Harry the Lunch Sack, he's great, man. He's from Twisted Metal 1." And she's like, "Well, what does he do?" I was like,
nothing.
"Well, nothing."
That's the whole point. Well, he does. He's not a serial killer.
Well, yeah, because he killed all the
she's sitting there on the floor. She's sitting there, just sitting out innocent like a little puppy. And that.
So, do you reckon because there was a supernatural element with the lunch sack in the first
one?
Well,
I wonder if they're doing a Splatterhouse Rick's mask sort of our vibe. And this time now, the spirit, the evil spirit, if there is one, is in the lunch sack. Because that'd be a canny little twist, you know.
Well, something happened there because somebody killed all them people.
And he didn't. Sweet Tooth didn't. He was
he said he didn't.
I believe him. I believe that'll be a little twist for the future. It could have been a little bit inhuman that they leave, but I wouldn't be surprised because they not mind moving it a totally crazy territory.
Yeah, they don't seem to mind jumping off the planes of reality and doing some mad stuff.
Well, what you're saying there, that definitely does apply to the characters, but something which at first I was going to be disappointed about, but I'm now not. After watching the show, is is that they very rarely touch on some of the absolutely outlandish special weapons that the cars have in the series, in the game series. I mean, some of the weapons like Twister,
the combat's more grounded.
It's grounded. It's like Death Race and that. You know, generally cars are armed with machine guns, and a couple of Sweet Tooth has missiles, like special weapon missiles as well. I would call them.
Yeah.
But they're still grounded in reality. I mean, they're practical, aren't they? I mean, you could practically shoot a missile out of a clown head. You know, you could.
Yeah.
But you don't see Twister, and Twister is in the series. You don't see Twister suddenly jump up on ends and start like spinning towards an opponent, which just wouldn't be practical. Would look silly. The same. I mean, as I said, I do expect to see a little bit of a touch on some cars. I mean, for instance, Outlaw having like a taser type weapon attached to the rooftop, that could work. You know, any cars like Roadkill. Roadkill has a missile based weapon in black. I mean, I wouldn't expect the boomerang from 2 to come shoot.
No.
But it's weapon from black definitely, which would absolutely fit the series. Bear in mind, obviously, this show definitely has some roots in black, you know. But other than that, though, generally the combat's down to like cars bumping into each other and cars shooting machine guns, and it's really well done. It's simple and good, and I'm pleased that it hasn't gone crazy. And if and when there is a series 2, obviously, I really do hope they stick to this. Really.
Do you know what made me giggle with joy? It took a while to get there, but episode 9 when Sweet Tooth's in the van, he's gearing up for the big fight, because there's a bit where they have a proper arena fight in season 9 where he sets his head on fire.
It's as simple as that as well. The thing is, in fact, it is good, but they could have maybe fleshed that out even more. But the point just decided, sod it, just said he set his head on fire.
Aye, it was like, shit, we've got to this point where I haven't set his head on fire yet. Let's get it in there.
The only other game in the series, right, that ever touched on this was Twisted Metal Black, and the explanation for his head on fire was very cool, because it was actually a curse which was laid on him by Preacher.
Yeah.
You know, and that was basically, he, in fact, the whole gist of his wish, of his story, is that he wants to be able to put the fire out. He wants to put an end to the curse, doesn't he? And obviously, well, he decides in the end not to bother when he has a choice, you know. So that was cool, and that was great, because I played his wish. So in the series, it was much more simplified and very, very direct, but I liked that it worked within the context of what we were doing. You know, it showed how psychotic Sweet Tooth actually was.
Tell you another bit, I was a little bit, not bored, but I switched off a little bit around about the where it had the big rigs and like the convoy and stuff. But I tell you what, the Granny Dread character, she was brilliant, and I know she's been mentioned, but you've mentioned her before and just well. Where did she come into it again?
Well, in the series,
Aye.
I've just mentioned earlier, she's the driver of Hammerhead in Twist Metal 3.
Oh, of course,
yeah,
yeah.
Granny Dread. The red Hammerhead's a red Jeep in that one.
Yes, man.
Yeah, so she is like the Granny riding around in Hammerhead, because Hammerhead's a vehicle that's had. In fact, Hammerhead's had a different driver in every single game. I think 1 was Mike and Dave, or Dave and Mike. 2 was Mike and Stu. 3 was Granny Dread. No, she wasn't in 4. 5 Black wasn't in Black. It was in Small Blow, but the driver's just called Hammerhead, but it's a single man, like one man by himself operating Hammerhead, so it could be a different character. Then you've got Head On, and in Head On's Catfish. I love Catfish, he's a great character. He's like a hunter, you know. Head On, and he hasn't been seen since. Oh no, he has, because he's one of the bosses. I say he. Hammerhead is one of the bosses in 2012, and he's actually driven by one of the Grims. It's part of is it Grims? Is it the Grims?
It's the Grim.
It's the
gang,
Grimm
isn't it?
the Grimm brothers, the Grimm, the Skulls they're called. So technically, he's considered him driven by Mr. Grimm in a way in that game. Like he's part of that faction, you know. Obviously, in 2012, Sweet Tooth drives the Carnival of Carnage, and then Dollface has the Iron Maiden, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what they're called, the 3 bosses of 2012.
So she obviously has her dying moments in what looks to be like Thumper. It's like a big.
It's been mentioned, yeah. Someone else mentioned that, yeah. Aye, they're saying that could be, and it possibly is, because going back to like cars that don't like Shadows in there. There's a purple hearse which is never driven by any of the. In fact, it's driven by Carl and Jamie Roberts at one point, because they're in it, which is great. They've got nothing to do with Outlaw at all, but the 2 coppers are working together, brother and sister, and they're actually in Shadow at one point. The car is never named. It doesn't have any special weapons or anything, and it gets blown up twice, if I remember right. But it's clearly meant to be Shadow, you know. So
where you can see by the colour scheme.
Yeah, the colour scheme. It's a purple hearse, you know what I mean? You know, so there's many times where vehicles don't get mentioned. One character that was very cool, and you don't get to see his car yet, was Mr. Slam. Well, I mean, we love why he's called. They call him Mr. Slam. I mean, that is the best reason to call the guy Mr. Slam. I'm not going to spoil it.
I'm going to spoil it.
You spoiled.
He's called Mr. Slam because he smashes melons with his huge dong. I think that's how to put it in the show, wasn't it?
I'm hoping that this plays into his vehicle somehow if he gets to the next one.
Melons.
Obviously, in the games, Mr. Slam was always a front loader.
Yeah.
You know, he's always a big front loader, and you had like...
I don't think I ever played as Mr. Slam. Maybe when I obviously did the story
mode. He just looks cool to drive, and that way not to drive around, high cars around that. I mean, he sort of had a brother in TM3 with Auger, which was another type of construction vehicle. Now, if you remember, the two of them came back in TM4 to fight you as a tag team as the bosses of the oil rig level.
Yeah.
So you fought Super Slam and Super Auger together, you know. But, you know, again, going back to Slam, though, like a really cool character, but we don't know what he actually drives. And I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up in Series 2 and he's driving something completely different, but to be honest with you, I'll lap it up whatever it is.
I hope he's driving something industrial.
Yeah, it should be. Looks like he could be. I don't know, it looks like a big trucker to me, though. And what happens if Darkseid isn't in it in the normal sense? They bring a new truck in there and it's somehow connected to what he can do, you know?
I think they've got to do something with Darkseid because we've got rigs and whatnot and everything, and it's bound to happen, isn't it? But it's from what season 1 did, it set season 2 up beautifully. But season 1, who was your favourite character?
Oh, well, my favourite character without doubt, Sweet Tooth. I mean, I know that's vanilla. I was going to go there, but the thing is, it's just he was. I mean, yeah. Some characters are obviously clearly fleshed out more than others for obvious reasons, and that they're central to the plot. Some, I mean, like I said, going back to the bar scene, I can't remember which episode, but the bar scene where
it was like 7 or 8.
It was quite late, where they met Bloody Mary, she had quite a bit of dialogue. Bloody Mary, and she's very sexy as well. Met Bloody Mary, and she's got all her mates there, and her mates are Petunia, which is Dennis Petunia Flanders, who drives Drag Queen from TM4. You've got Pizza Boy, drives Pizza Boy from TM4, and I think and Pit Viper. I said Pit Viper. All obscure characters who you don't know as well, but it was just nice to see little nods. You didn't even see what they drove, any of those characters, even Bloody Mary, if she drove out at all at that time. But the fact is that, you know, it was just mentioning names. But there was one character, though. There's one character who I think I'm going to put as my number 2, just because I don't know exactly. Well,
he was hilarious.
Preacher was great. A great day again. There's a character in there called Preacher, and he's in charge of a group of characters called the Holy Men. Now, this is a nod back to 2012 that wasn't really fleshed out too much. Now, when I say 2012, by the way, I mean Twist Metal 2012. Just so you know,
3,
some people actually shorten it to TMX. It's just different people calling it different things. But anyway,
don't bother playing it. It's terrible.
It's not the best game in the series.
Play 2.
It's a more multiplayer focused game, and there's 4 factions. You've got the Skulls, which are based on Grim. You've got the Dolls, based on Dollface's character from that game, and also
which you see the dolls at the end.
Yeah, you do. There's an odd there. Great, they look great. They look cool as well. And it turns out it's the brother of
the sister of John Doe. Doe.
You've also got the I've said the Skulls, the Clowns, which is Sweet Tooth's faction, and then you've got one more faction as well, and this faction don't even play at all into single player because they don't have a bot. That's why I always feel 2012 was a bit unfinished, because you've got 3 main levels to the single player, and you fight a faction and then a boss at the end, and the boss is always based on that faction. But you've also got a 4th faction in the multiplayer called the Holy Men, and they're clearly based on Preacher, but they don't have a unique vehicle. Like, they don't have a unique boss vehicle, or they're not aligned to a certain type of car. And I just thought it was odd that they had this 4th faction, but there was no mention in the single player. But I'm pleased it happened, because at the end of the day, you've now got the Holy Men in the series, and the Holy Men are cool as fuck. Basically, the Mad Max wannabes. I mean, they're based on the Wastelanders from Mad Max 2.
Yeah.
You know, and they're led by a guy called Preacher, who absolutely is nothing like the Great Humongous. Thankfully, he's his own thing, and he's cool as fuck. He's just great. He's nothing like Jebediah from TMB or TMX. In fact, TM2
Kung Fu Monkey.
Yeah, and he's back as well. He doesn't get killed off, so no, he's coming back, and he'll have his own unique vehicle.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Brimstone finally makes it in. You know, Brimstone. But the other character I want to talk about, because you don't find enough about him, but we know he's in there. Calypso himself. He was mentioned as more of a legend a little bit early in the series, and you get the vibe it probably is him, because you hear a mysterious man speak. But by the end, it's fully confirmed. Now, you said you didn't realise.
I didn't realise he was.
You see him from behind, and he's clearly based on TM2 Calypso. You see he's wearing a dark suit. He's got long hair. You don't see his face. You just see it, and I thought, I hope that's it. I hope it'd be class.
It's bound to be, isn't it?
It is Calypso. It's clearly Calypso, but it's like, you know, which way they're going to go. You know, I mean, it was nice to see. What's her name? Out of Scream, man. She's playing Raven in this, so she's a great actress and all. It was nice to see that they've brought Raven in.
I can't remember her name.
She's an important character. I can't remember because you could never pronounce her name right.
I had the cast list open and all. I've closed it now.
I
had the cast list open. I've closed it now.
It's all right. You tell us.
It's the heroine.
It's an easy name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But she plays Raven, and Raven's a very central character, and it looks like she's quite... In fact, at first, at one point, it looked like she might have been the equivalent of Calypso in this game. But Raven is another character based on a TMB, a character, you know. And it was nice to see, even though...
Neve Campbell,
that's it. Or Nev Campbell, some call her. But, not Neville. But
Cindy Prescott.
What she's proved, though, is, again, little nods back to the Twisted Metal Black version, and actually she has voodoo dolls. You know, so maybe she just kills her victims like that. So she's clearly evil in this. I mean, she's not like a good guy like a good girl, like Raven was in TMB. She was quite a sympathetic character, you know. And like I said, the story. If you listen to the story of Raven and you read the segments in between the levels, it's clearly they took massive inspiration from The Crow, you know. And it's well done. It's well done. It doesn't feel too ripped off. I mean, it clearly fit. It is based on it, like I said, but it becomes its own thing. But anyway. Like I say, though, Raven, another character who's been brought back well, I thought, you know, so very good stuff.
My favourite character is obviously Sweet Tooth, because he steals the show. I know Anthony Mackie is probably meant to be the main cast character in this, but
Sweet Tooth's the Twisted Metal mascot, though. Always has been. He's always been the mascot, so...
It's every scene with him is just so much fun, and
do you not think
batshit crazy?
He does something that he's never done in a series before, in the game series.
What, he
and
befriends someone?
No,
he befriends someone.
Well, there's that, but he's got this way about him, right, which is very endearing. Bear in mind, this character's meant to be an absolutely sadistic serial killer that stabs dogs to death with needles, with knitting needles. By the way, that's why they call them needles.
Hence needle cane. Yeah.
But what he does is, and it feels genuine, and I love it. And it's more down. This is down to Will Arnett just as much as Samoa Joe, because Samoa Joe's got the movements great, you know, and Will Arnett's voice is very close to what it should be, but he's got this whimsical nature about him where he's got a childlike innocence. Like you feel Sweet Tooth. If anybody out there listen to this hasn't played Black or has and hasn't watched the stories for a while, please go on YouTube after listening to this and just watch Sweet Tooth's story game from I tell you, watch it from TMB and maybe watch some of his story segments from TM 2012 as well. And obviously said, because this version of Sweet Tooth from the series is clearly based on that more than any other, with a few nods here and there to other games. But in those games, he's always just an unstoppable evil powerhouse without any remorse or anything. He's basically Michael Myers cranked up a 10, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know. But in this game, he's not just that. There's a lot more depth to him as a human, and I thought I loved it. But the thing is, what made him even more menacing than those versions was you never knew what to expect with him. 1 minute he's nice, and the next minute he just flips on a heel. You know, he just goes to 180. And I thought, you know, it was that was really
Sorry,
cool.
everyone, my bloody phone keeps going off.
He's you know, this version of the character's got a ton of depth. That if they do make another game, I think they should definitely stick with this style of personality and use that going forward for another episode. You know, so if they make another installment.
Yeah. No, Sweet Tooth, he's an absolutely brilliant character, and it's just every scene fantastic, like I said. But you know. Is it if you had the opportunity to make this TV series, would you have done anything differently?
Yes, I would, because at the time my mindset would have been it needs to be like just arena combat. Bear in mind, this totally contradicts what I've said at the start, but no, this would be the mindset I had at the time.
Yeah. Before you figured it could work like this.
I would have been right, okay, every episode to just like, there's ways I would have done it, right, that are different from the games. It wouldn't just be like, right, you've got a guy driving around in circles and not shooting everybody. Mm-hmm. There would be filler, if you want to call it. I hate to call it filler, but it technically would be like things out.
It would be like pre-fight banters and then people you'd have, getting into other fights and stuff.
Well, I think what would end up happening is, because you couldn't. I tell you what probably couldn't work at the moment. Not in my head, but I can't. I'm not that bright. I don't think you could have the sprawling environments of like the later games. You know, like we could hardly go to Paris and have cars driving around. Because bear in mind, you've got maybe half a dozen competitors or so. Say you had 10 different competitors, and they're driving around a city right, with traffic and all this. Now, that, didn't get us wrong, that sounds great in a chase film, where you're driving around and innocent cars are getting shot up and pedestrians are getting knocked over and whatever. If they want to go that route, bear in mind, it did happen in the games.
You couldn't. It doesn't have the kind of budget I would expect to be able to.
No, and I don't think it will. And it might just sort of spread things out a bit too much. I mean, it could work if you sort of create levels. Well, I'll call them levels because they are levels in the series where they stick to the more arena style. So you've got Destruction Derby type events, a little bit like the ninth episode. Really?
Yeah.
Where
I think the closest you're likely to get to something matching one of the TM games is like level 7 of TM2 Field of Screams. It's like
that might be again a big arena.
A big field.
But I tell you what, I would like to see, and I think we'll really work a lot of one-on-one battles. A lot of one-on-one with just two main vehicles going up against each other, and you can see because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in a series like this. If you had look at episode 9. I mean, very energetic and very fun, but at the end of the day, it's still just a lot of cars just driving around in circles, and some of them are getting shot and some of them not. So the action focuses on one set of cars, or maybe 3 or whatever. Somebody gets blown up, and then somebody moves on to somebody else. But if you've got 2 different vehicles and they're both like absolute nemesis, it becomes like a boxing match or a wrestling match, And I mean, obviously, I'd still want to see the free for all because that's what TM's always been about, multiple free for all with 6 or more cars and that, But I definitely wouldn't mind a little bit of a base. If I'd made it, I wouldn't have minded a bit of a basis on like some one-on-one battles, between 2 drivers that hate each other.
I think you kind of already see it in season 1, but I think where it'll go mainly is like the Mad Max game and TV and the movies, to the point where you've got like 1 or 2, maybe 3 cars in a chase scene battling each other, that kind of thing, rather than driving around an arena, pulling handbrake turns, trying to shoot each other with rockets and stuff.
I don't think the whole series would be about that as well. It couldn't just be about that. So I think series 2, if it happens, it'll definitely have more battles. It'll be more, cause it looks like clearly they want to introduce the tournament. I mean, you've got to remember the tournament doesn't even exist in Twist Metal the first series.
It's clear because
it doesn't even exist.
Just to spoil things even further for you, the reason of the whole first season is Neve Campbell's character Raven gets Anthony Mackie to collect something for her from Calypso. Which turns out to be some ice cream.
Yeah,
and the only reason
Sweet Tooth would have some.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason she did it is because she wanted to test Anthony Mackie or John Doe to see if he was a good driver, so he could enter the tournament on her behalf, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. So it's clearly all about season 2 setting it up for the tournament.
But obviously another element of Twisted Metal now. A lot of people hate this. I mean, I was a big. I was a moderator on the TM Alliance website for a number of years. I still am. I just haven't been active, but I've always made it clear. One of the elements I've loved.
To fame until this podcast.
Well, I've got my name. My name, Archminion, is my user ID, and it's actually in the TM 2012 credits. But one of the elements I've always loved about TM games, and it like I say, it's a small element to some, but to me it wasn't. I love the bosses. I've always loved the bosses. I mean, the game's always introduced new, more outlandish, crazy bosses. Like Minion 1. TM1 was pretty much grounded in that was a big armoured personnel character, which to me is a very, very obvious choice for a boss, and I expect that to absolutely appear in the second series. It'll probably not be driven by a demon or anything, but it might not even get to know who the driver is, but I wouldn't be surprised if at one point there is an armoured person, or a full-on tank, because TM4 has a tank, Minion's a tank in that version. At some point Minion as a tank or APC or something comes into the game, and then you get a little bit more outlandish with 2, with having Dark Tooth, which is a massive overskilled Sweet Tooth style ice cream truck, and that could be done as well within the budget, I think, looking at what we talked about before. There's other crazier stuff in later games in the series, and the series might not go that route, it might not fully go that route, although I have a feeling it will. Again, looking at Death Race now, well, Death Race was 2008, and Twisted Metal 2012 was 2012, and that had a vehicle called the Juggernaut, didn't it?
Yeah.
And that was there's a nod to the Juggernaut in the series as well.
Yeah.
But earlier than that, though, TMB had Minion again, but Minion, just like we've been discussing earlier, this version of Minion was a very different Minion. It was a completely different vehicle, and in fact, the driver was actually a version of Marcus Kane. But that vehicle had a massive flamethrower stroke fireball cannon on top, if you remember.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, big massive big rig looking like a Mad Max reject.
Oh yes,
I think the guys who made Death Race from 2008 absolutely saw that and loved it, because The Dreadnought, bear in mind, the
which is
Dreadnought,
a
as it's called,
fantastic machine.
is very similar. It's a big rig and it's got a big cannon on the top with flamethrower, and that is easily the boss of the film, the boss of the arenas, it's fought as a boss battle. It's like definitely it's clearly based on Twisted Metal everywhere, and it worked. I mean, for me, I thought it really well. I loved how they killed it. It was very,
it brought it down really
well. It was a puzzle battle, as TMB introduced, a puzzle boss battle more than the early games. They had to work with the environment, which I love because that's been a thing for the Mario Brothers games. Isn't it? Using the environment, and it's like Mario 3 is a good example. How to kill Bowser. It's amazing how we've used this within different genres over the years. But it still boils down to one thing. But anyway, as I say, it was. I think they'll probably introduce like some sort of a boss type vehicle into the series now. And Sweet Tooth loses his truck, doesn't he? So that could be an interesting little opener.
Could see Dark Tooth. But is there anything more you want to talk about, mate, before we wrap up and give reviews?
I think we'll hit just every count as well. So I think we're good.
Yeah. Sorry if we've spoiled it for you, but we'll warn you in the intro when we record that.
Yeah,
but
because we have chucked them in there.
No, but I mean, look, like I said, for me, I went into this not expecting an awful lot. Sony, like I said, set the bar really high with the Last of Us TV series.
Glad there's another film coming off.
And God of War TV series has been talked about, possibly announced.
That will happen. That'll definitely happen.
Dave Bautista apparently has turned down Kratos, but I think he'll take that. It's nailed on from him.
I hope
and he can make that a deep part as well, because he's a good actor. But
very.
I really, honestly, was blown away by how good this was. I think Last of Us maybe edged it just a little bit because the storytelling's even better again, which it should be from Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog.
Can I chuck something in here before you finish your review? What's your favourite car in the series? Like favourite vehicle? I mean, I know what you'd probably say, but I'm going to go with something different this time, just to mix it up a bit.
Sweet Tooth ice cream truck's tremendous, isn't it?
Aye,
but I like what's his Subaru called? It's
I can't remember the name of the car now. I know it's got a girl's name on it, like Agnes.
It's his baby.
I love Roadkill. I thought the new Roadkill
looks like it should.
It looked like a cross between like TM1 and 3's Roadkill.
Yeah,
crossed with a bit of B, a bit of black. So I thought that looked a cool Roadkill.
I don't know. It's got to be Sweet Tooth's truck. It was amazing. It was just exactly as it should be.
It looks like they've literally took the dimension. It looked like exactly the same truck from 2012, which is absolutely impossible because that got blown up. So, but they've probably took the same type of truck. They've just literally built it the same, which to me is great. Now, but I know I'm sorry for sidelining because you're about to do your review, so I will keep it brief. But I will actually say that the Twisted Metal 2012 version of the truck isn't my favourite version though. It's TMB. I love that version. Like they've took like what looked like an armoured bank truck. Vault truck, and then turned it into an ice cream truck, which I thought was really cool sort of conversion. But some might argue that TM1 and 2, which the 2012 version is based on clearly, is more iconic. So, but I like to mix it up a bit and say I prefer the 2012 version.
I can see why they'd put a standard ice cream truck in there because that's what he drives.
It does go. It's the one he's drove the most, and it is close to 1 and 2. Like the head on the top wiggling around as opposed to having like a spinning one or whatnot. Which Black has.
But I would
review.
I seriously recommend watching this. It's a very, very fun, very well paced show.
The thing is, you don't have to be a fan of the games really as well.
You don't. There's something there for everyone. It's not just fans of Twisted Metal.
I wouldn't call it's not like a car combat series. The show. It's not. I mean, it might become a bit more, but it's not really.
Again,
it's got elements.
Back to Danielle. Danielle doesn't know Twisted Metal. She's probably seen us play it before years ago. But the wife thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I say, she was badgering me to put another episode on. We practically binge watched it. In fact, we did in 2 days. Yeah. Watched the full 10 episodes in 2 days.
I watched it on one day, mate. I watched the whole lot.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
One day.
But the episodes are about 40 minutes long? Half an hour long?
Half an hour, yeah.
And the last episode is a little bit longer. So it's fairly easy to get through. But look, for me, very, very recommended. I'll give it a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Well, I'm impressed because I weren't expecting much. I wouldn't have expected much, and I just thought it might have been a by the numbers sort of. I don't know what I could have called it. To be honest with you, when I read the descriptions of it, and the description matched what came out, it was like, there's a guy and he's got a package, a mysterious package.
It didn't sound like Twisted Metal in the slightest, did it?
I thought myself, and I just don't fancy this at all. Like I thought myself, it'll not get made. I remember thinking for a while, it'll just not get made.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I hope it doesn't, and I thought that's a bit cruel, really. Like it could turn out good, but I've been very, very pleasantly
proved wrong.
Impressed by it. Like, I thought, it's very, in fact, I said the depth of the characters, what they've done to the characters that have existed. They haven't butchered any character in the game.
No.
In fact, if I had to try and gripe, because you've got to find a gripe, I think if there's one little gripe, it's only with two minor characters, and that's the Roberts siblings, as in Jamie and Carl, as in all the games they've been in. Bear in mind they've been in 1, 2, and 3, and Head On as well, yeah, because they played a similar role to 3. In fact, in that they were both in it together. But in there's a mini version in Small Brawl as well of Carl Roberts, but whether you include that or not. But anyway, in all the games they've been in, they've always been heroic characters, like good guys, like the best of the best, as in like their wishes have always been the most wholesome in the series. They've always been about like helping each other or helping society, or generally being the good guys. In fact, like I would have considered Carl Roberts in Twisted Metal 1 as being like your protagonist, your main protagonist, right? And that sort of drifted off as the series went on. Where in this game, they're just henchmen. In this show, they're just like supporting henchmen that are working for Agent Stone, and they don't do much really, and they die quite quickly. And I thought that was a little bit sad for two characters which have been in quite a few episodes, like quite a few installments of the games. So that's me gripe. That's me single gripe.
It sounds like it just the shoehorned them in just to get them in there.
They've done a Mortal Kombat Armageddon, haven't they?
Yeah.
I mean, which I don't mind personally. I still love that film. So again, fan service to say, look, hey, we're chucking characters in here and there, and
just to say
look, again, they did it with the TM4 characters, didn't they? And at least they still fleshed these out a bit more than that. They actually had dialogue, and they had there were characters that interacted with each other. I'll give Twisted Metal a 9 out of 10. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because I'm really impressed with it, and I'm looking forward to season 2 if it happens, and I sincerely hope it does.
I'm sticking at 8.5 because I'm hoping the season 2 comes out and it gets a 9 or a 9.5 and is even better again. But like I say, go and watch it. It's amazing. It's there's definitely, you don't need to be a Twisted Metal fan, like we said. You'll enjoy it anyway.
But it does help. Because there's that much fan service, and a lot of it's so small, and that's deliberate, and that feels deliberate. I mean, I thought the show was going to be shite. In one of the first scenes where John Doe's driving along, and he's in a as a breeze in a Twisted Metal 1 American version long box game case lands on the windscreen.
Oh yeah,
thought, is that how subtle? Or is it not going to be? Why would that even happen? That's too meta. Why would that even happen? Why would the Twisted Metal game case land on the screen in a show called Twisted Metal where Twisted Metal doesn't exist yet?
Yeah.
So I thought, oh crap! I thought, oh, it's going to be daft. But that was literally the only one, and everything else after that totally either worked within the story, as in it was part of the story as well, or at least it was a proper knowing wink, where you could look and go, I get you, I get where you're going. So it's been clearly made by people who love the series, and probably big Sony fans as well, so people who've been with PlayStation for a long time. And I think so. If this is the calibre of the type of work we're getting from a series, not even from a feature film, then I would say Sony's on a winner. Like, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a point.
Absolute wall, mate.
They might get to a point now where if they keep on doing this with major series, you could end up getting more popularity in the actual shows and some of the games themselves.
I would like to think that the popularity of the show, because I know it's done well in America. I think it's actually done quite well over here. I've heard
which is a surprise because Twisted Metal as a series, as a record, never done well.
But I'm hoping that maybe spurs a bit of regeneration back into the game itself, and they come up with, because I'd love to see a PS5, graphics for a Twisted Metal game and stuff like that. I think it'd be amazing. But we can only keep our fingers crossed. Like I say, Sony's on a roll. We'll see how they do with Gran Turismo.
Which I think they'll do
hopefully
well.
God of War gets greenlit, because that'll be amazing.
I think God of War's a no-brainer. In fact, I'd be very surprised that happened all. The thing is, the game was even the first game from 2005 was clearly made as a feature film. I mean, it's obvious. It's just, I can't believe it hasn't come out first. In fact, I'm extremely surprised that wasn't the first Sony IP to make it to the small screen, or the silver screen, or the big screen.
I think Last of Us had to be. The story was just there. It was ready. The game and film are so closely tied because they really didn't have to change much.
Do you know what it is? Or I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing some of their other slightly lesser but still fairly well-known series like Resistance and
Crash Bandicoot.
Killzone. Crash Bandicoot.
Actually, Crash Bandicoot.
Look at Sonic. Look at Sonic.
Microsoft at this rate.
Well, I was Crash has got other other holders not now.
Spyro and Spyro will be Microsoft.
It'll
have to be Jak and Daxter.
Well, Jack and Daxter is, isn't it? That's Sony still.
That's
right?
Sony, yeah.
But do you know what I mean? There's nothing stopping them trying this when they see the success of things like Sonic, which it has been. But I've just said that, like Killzone and Resistance, which I know for a fact have had installments for absolutely years, and their final installments tend not to be as well received. But it's like, imagine people just go for it and try it in the garden. They would just do a short series, like a single 4-parter or 6-parter maybe, just like 3 hours worth of material, and it turns out like, yeah, we like it. Or we don't make another one, but at least we did it for the fans and everyone enjoyed it, you know. And it's like, I mean, personally, I was always a fan of the Doom film. I loved it with The Rock, you know. It was great. It was silly.
It was good.
But it was like, you know, if you want a silly action film where The Rock always turns stuff to gold anyway, I thought, it was well done. But again, on the overall whole as well, though, going back to just game-related movies and TV shows and that, you know, they've come along in leaps and bounds since Mario Brothers, and obviously Mario Brothers has its own fan base now as well. I mean, the original Super Mario Brothers, not just the new
Super
film.
Mario Brothers is
I've got to still watch that as well. But then we moved over into like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, you know, and they weren't well received at the time, but I found this type of stuff now to go back to. It's got a ton of charm, even Street Fighter. We watched it again recently, just watching Raul Julia just basically chewing the whole thing apart, right? Was just hilarious. You know, Mortal Kombat, especially Armageddon, done for laughs, you know, and it's like, yeah, you just sit down watching with a few beers and your mates and gone, there were the days, you know, and it's nice to see now that the material, I went for a Street Rage film.
I know.
We're seeing material like it's still coming and it's hitting a bigger stride as well now, and people are taking it seriously as well, so you're getting films and shows that feel like a full feature film where you've fleshed out these characters, and they've become, you know, they've become as important as big name characters which have been around for years, you know, on the screen. So no, but that's it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure doing the episode. I think I enjoyed watching the series. It's one
for anyone who's especially made it this far. Thank you very much once again for listening, and we'll be back again next week with our special episode number 10. I won't tell you what that is yet, but we'll probably break it to you in the intro anyway, which we'll be recording next, of course. As always, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment, get engaged with us so we can talk to you, and from both of us, have a good day, good evening, and see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye.